The religion of Islam, like many other religions, describes other beings that exist in the universe other than human beings. Some beings have various roles and can be divided up into different types and classes. Either way, there are quite a numerous amount of supernatural beings and creatures mentioned in Islam. Welcome back to another episode of FTD Facts. My name is Leroy Kenton, and for this one, I'm going to be looking at 10 supernatural creatures mentioned specifically in Islam. So let's jump into this. At number 10, we have the Houris. What are the Houris anyways? Well, they're described as beautiful maidens who await devout Muslims in paradise. There are numerous references to the Houris in the Quran, describing them as purified wives and spotless virgins. And according to Encyclopedia Britannica, some scholars actually give the Houris a metaphoric interpretation. It also has been suggested that the Prophet Muhammad actually reinterpreted angels that he saw in pictures of Christian paradise as being Houris. Moving on to number 9, we gotta look at Buraq next. Buraq is a creature in Islamic tradition that is said to be a mode of transportation for certain prophets. Most notably in the Hadith, we see accounts about the Isra and Miraj, and they state that Buraq carried the Islamic prophet Muhammad from Mecca to Jerusalem and up into the heavens and back in the same night. Now, Buraq is described as a white animal, half mule, half donkey, with wings on its sides, and the word Buraq actually translates to lightning or bright. Number 8 brings us to angels, and these are perhaps the most common supernatural creatures mentioned in Islam. And angels are real created beings, but are generally invisible like most others. They are not divine or semi-divine. Also, they aren't to be worshipped at all. They're just created beings. And angels, by nature, they submit to God and carry out His command without any question. Whatever God says to do, they just do it. And just to give you an example of the size of the angels, well, Jibril, also known as Gabriel, is the greatest angel, and he's said to have over 600 wings, and his height stretches from heaven to earth, and he can move faster than the speed of light, as all the angels can. As a matter of fact, angels are made out of light according to the religion of Islam. Marid comes in next at number 7. The Marid are considered the most powerful tribe of jinn, and the word Marid actually means rebellious. They are the classical genie-looking figures that we would see in movies and stories like Aladdin. You know, when they rub the lamp and the genie pops out to grant any wish that the person may have. And just like we've seen in pop culture depictions, well, Marid, they can change their shape, and they're said to have a lot of pride, and they want to show off to people a lot. Number 6 brings us to the Ifrit. And now these are a powerful type of jinn and are only mentioned once in the entire Quran. And in Islamic scriptures, the term Ifrit is always followed by the expression of the jinn. So we see that it's a type or class of jinn. The Ifrit are a very strong and cunning type of jinn, and they emerge as smoke from the ground, and they form into large winged demon-looking creatures that actually are said to bleed fire. They dwell in the underworld, which is a place of punishment for those that do evil. So we reach halfway in this episode, and I want to take this time to mention our similar video that we have, 10 scariest supernatural beliefs in Islam. Now, we look at some beliefs that people who may not necessarily be familiar with them may interpret them as scary or creepy. Even for Muslims, some of them might be scary or creepy in their minds. So that is definitely one that you don't want to miss. I'll link to it below in the video description section where you can check it out after this episode. But for now, we continue on with number 5. Ghouls are up next. A ghoul is a demonic creature that is said to inhabit burial grounds as well as other deserted and abandoned places. In ancient Arabic folklore, ghouls are a very evil class of jinn, and they were said to be the offspring of Iblis, also known as Satan, which, by the way, I'm going to talk about a little bit later in this episode. Ghouls are capable of changing form, but you can always spot one of them if you look for this specific sign. Well, they actually have hooves like donkeys, and they aren't able to change that aspect of their figure. Ghouls, they roam the desert, like I mentioned, and they often disguise themselves as attractive women that try to lure people away, and if they're successful, they actually go and eat them. According to the Hadith, an effective method of banishing ghouls is to recite lines from the Quran. Next up, I want to talk about the Shik and Nasnas. Shik is a lower form of jinn. It's sort of like a half creature or like half formed, and so they look very odd, and they apparently go after unsuspecting travelers. And you know, the interesting thing is that it's said that the Shik, they're able to mate with humans. And if they do, well, their offspring is known as a Nasnas, which look very similar to the Shik. Well, they're half Shik, half human. And these Nasnas, it's said that they originate from the Hadramaut region of Yemen. Some Nasnas are described as having wings like a bat. Number 3, I had to include the Qareen on this list. Now, the word in Arabic literally means constant companion. And Muslims believe that Allah assigned the Qareen to accompany every single human being that has been born and that will be born and that is currently living on this planet right now. The Qareen push a person to do evil and disobey God's commands. So, just to clarify one thing, the Qareen, they're believed to incite humans to do evil through suggestions, but they can actually become good. And this has a lot to do with the good deeds of humans that influence the Qareen. For example, it is said that the Qareen of the Prophet Muhammad actually became a Muslim. However, it is uncertain whether or not any other Qareen besides those of the Prophet Muhammad actually have become Muslims or become good Qareen. Either way, we have 2 more creatures to look at. And number 2 leads us to the Dabba, also known as the beast of the earth. Before the end of time, there's going to be a beast that will come out from the earth, and this beast will tell the world to recognize Allah as the only God that exists. Now, the beast will wear what is known as the Ring of Solomon and carry the rod of Moses. Also, those who reject the message of the beast will have the word infidel written on their foreheads. Now, once the beast appears, it's not going to matter if a disbeliever then becomes a believer, because the time for you choosing your destiny, it's going to be gone. And this is according to a hadith narrated by Abu Hurairah. Now, in the Quran, it says this: "And when the word is fulfilled concerning them, we shall bring forth a Dabba from the earth to speak unto them, because mankind had no faith in our revelation." And that's found in Surah 27, verses 82. So this beast, by the way, is actually going to audibly speak to people. That's going to be a big surprise. And number 1 leads us to Iblis. Like I mentioned, Iblis was coming up in this episode. And Iblis in Islam is the personal name of the devil, which is the counterpart of the Jewish and Christian Satan. At the time of creation of the human beings, God ordered all of the angels to bow down before Adam. But Iblis was living amongst the angels, and he refused to bow down because he was made of fire. He's, by the way, a jinn in Islam, not an angel. So he's made of fire, and he was like, no, I'm not bowing down to somebody that is not superior to me. I'm sorry. And because he acted so prideful and disobeyed a clear command of God, God threw Iblis out of heaven, and that was his punishment. But his ultimate punishment is postponed until the day of judgment. And Iblis, who became the ruler of the jinn, referred to as the shaitan, tempt people to do evil and has become the ultimate enemy of all of humankind. On that note, that wraps up this episode. This was a look at 10 supernatural creatures mentioned in Islam. If you made it this far, don't forget to leave a like, and also if this is your first time here to FTV Facts, subscribe and ring the bell to be notified when new videos are posted. Here we share facts and information about the various different countries, cultures, religions, and people of our world. So if those topics interest you, join the FTV Facts family, and I hope to see you all in another episode.